What is up, everybody? We are back. Happy Monday. Joe is already in the house. He's loving the weather. 64. Probably perfect for you, Joe. Right in the wheelhouse. Right in the wheelhouse. It is. Welcome to the show. Glad you are here. Glad to be here. Big week this week. We'll talk about it. Big show today. We'll talk about that as well. But we gonna jump right in and say what's up. Hope y'all are doing well. This is awesome. Joe's loving it. 64. Give me 64 year round. The man's happy. It's a little brisk this morning. I went outside for my run. I'm like, ooh, this is not like it has been. But we only got some rain, so that's huge. 2 inches in a day. It's good. Nice soaking rain yesterday on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Hope you had a great one. Hope you took a day, Kings. I hope you took a day. Had a great weekend. Amazing weekend. We'll get to that in just a bit. But Das Show is brought to you by Cooperville Clothing. CoopervilleClothing.com is the website. Got all your American paint gear ready to go for 4th of July, which, believe it or not, is next freaking weekend. Holy crap buckets, is summer going by quick. Feels like there's something that's said every single year. Joe, I'm going to get your shirt done tonight after the show. Things went awry. But it's coming. It is coming. Graphics done. We just got laid on the shirt. Summer just started yesterday. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. The part of summer where it's June, July, August. I count all of it. CoopervilleClothing.com. Please go and check out our great line of merchandise. All of the things. All that stuff. And all that prettiness. Captain Coop's Beard Company. Not sure why those pictures aren't showing up, but they should. It's weird. Yeah. Anyway, CaptainCoops.com for all your beard needs. Jump on it. And Midwest Meals, MidwestMeals.com. 16 rotating meals for your eating pleasure. Yeah, do something up tonight. I think we're doing that. I don't know where we're going tonight. Maybe do some burgers. They got their Angus burger. Sweet potato fries. That's on the menu. 16 rotating meals. And, of course, my computer is still camping. Apparently. It's still on vacay. But Midwest Meals, if you use the promo code Cooper at checkout, you get 10% off your first order. Get your order in by Friday. They ship out Mondays. They ship nationwide. So take meal prep out. A little something to go. Maybe just do lunches. Get it all squared away. MidwestMeals.com. Do it up. Yeah, I think it's the interwebs again, because I can see up here, because this is actually the monitor that we use, which I have over here too. So this is the one when we have guests on. And I can see up here on the upper, my left, maybe you're right, up in the corner there, something about our connection is being weak. Interesting. We just can't have nice things, man. Yeah. My computer is just shocked at the weather. It's like, wait a minute, what? Why is it so brisk? Well, you can't see that? Okay. Yeah, it's way up here in that corner there. Kind of see the edge of it. It's like the little Wi-Fi thing that you see, which is weird because we're not hooked up to Wi-Fi. We're hooked directly up into the wireless, into the router, into the modem, into the interwebs. So I don't know. Maybe we'll run a little speed test here since we're waiting on. Dr. J is joining the show once again. We're going to talk about stacking successes, and my good buddy Jimmy Hayes Nelson is coming back on the show today as well. I'm going to try to do this. Speed test. We'll see where we're at. Clearly not fast enough. Who knows what else is hooked up around here, though? We'll see. We'll see where we're at. Connect. It can't even connect to the speed test. Come on now. Come on, big money. Yeah, we may have to do a reset here. Thanks. Where we're running. 134 download. Oh, yeah, we are slow on the uptick. We are slow on the upload speed. There's our problem. That's the ish that we're running into. 4.9. We should be like at 15. We just can't have nice things. Man, come on, Spectrum. Come on, Spectrum. Get your shit together. I pay my bill. I have to. Everything else can go to hell. I don't just like make sure that the freaking internet's paid for. I don't know. Everything should be I don't even have my phone on. My phone is running on the network. Not this network, but I don't know. Just can't have nice stuff. Can't have nice things. But Dr. J and Jimmy Nelson joining the show today, so lots to talk about. It's that time of day. Everyone is online. Yeah. There's nobody else in the house, though, currently. But it could be a commutative thing. I did have to go in this weekend, or before the weekend, I should say, and turn off that Amazon Sidewalk. Turn off the sidewalk. Have you heard about the Amazon? I talked about the Amazon Sidewalk here on the show once, but like Amazon, if you have like an Alexa device or anything like that, like it'll use a little bit of your bandwidth and like share it outside of your home so that they can create this free Wi-Fi network using everybody's bandwidth. But in turn, it takes up your bandwidth. Wait, what? No. No, sir. So I had to shut that off. I had to go into the Alexa app and turn all that stuff off. And I was like, come on now. Of all people, I need to save my stuff. But no, it was a great weekend. We went up camping. We were up at Coon Fork Lake Campground for the weekend and Friday, Saturday, and took off on Sunday out there. Beautiful weather through the course of the weekend. Saturday was ideal. Hopefully everybody had a chance to enjoy a little bit this weekend to get out and enjoy some things. We did it. We kind of did it all. I smoked a ham. We brought the big green egg out there. Brought the big green egg out. Smoked a ham on Saturday. That was pretty badass. I think we did like 8 or 9 hours on the egg, low and slow, like at 220. Put a little bit of that Busch Light apple into the pan. Let it kind of absorb itself up. Oh man, it was good. It was so good. The ham was going quick. Did the beach thing. Obviously, kiddo was up this weekend, so he had a chance to hang out with his cousins, and they did a bunch of stuff, and it was great. Great weekend for camping. Busy, though. A lot of people up. A lot of people out getting outdoors, enjoying the fresh air of things. So that was good. That was good to see. Got back. Got that rain coming in on Sunday. Took Junior back up north and came back. Went out to did a little late lunch, early dinner for Father's Day. Me and Nick, and then we just chilled. What did we watch last night? We watched the A-Team. The A-Team movie. Yeah, Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper, Quentin Rampage Jackson. Yeah. I wanted like a shoot 'em up thing, and I really don't want to have to do a lot of thinking. And that's the one that came to fruition. So watch the A-Team, watch some Ghost Adventures after that, and just kind of decompress because it is a big week this week. Big one. Country Fest 2021 kicking off Wednesday night. I was out there all day today, out helping set up with all the things. And it's amazing to see because I work out there during the course of when it's not festival season, and last year when there was no festivals. But to see that place come to life from really like the people in the office and then myself that's working out in the yard for most of the day, and to all of a sudden this like hub of thousands of campers already set up and ready to go for the week, and all the vendors starting to roll in and tents going up, and really starting to take shape and take form. And met some of my sound guy buddies that I've known for over the years, Patrick and Mike were in today. They're running a couple of the stages. So just really cool to see everybody getting jazzed up for live music and a big old festival that starts in just a couple of days. So we're excited for that. We'll be live on Twitch doing kind of random stops and live things throughout the course of the weekend. It's all going to kind of be scheduled, determined. But if you follow us on Twitch, Joe, I know you do, obviously, because you're watching on Twitch right now. If you don't follow us on Twitch, it's Cooperville Live on Twitch. Just hit follow. I think you automatically get the notifications. It might ask you, like, would you like to receive notifications from Twitch? Hit yes. Because then when we go live, we will be live, I think, probably starting on Wednesday. We weren't really sure how the day was going to play out, but I'll probably be out there mid-afternoon on Wednesday. So we'll do some live stuff out there on Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday as well. And Saturday, maybe. I'm going to talk to my buddy Chris Serini from Monster. He's coming up, so I'm excited to chat it up with him and all the artists and stuff like that. So it's great to see the return of live music and really the enthusiasm. There's people out there camping already. They not dropped their campers off. They brought their campers out and are just going to hang out for the week. That's anticipation. That's enjoying the high life, probably. Because you're dedicated, man. You're in a field in Cadott. Getting ready for Country Fest 2021. Excited to be the master of ceremonies and be out there for the duration. Again, updates via Twitch coming throughout the course of this week after Wednesday. So prepare yourself accordingly and make sure that you follow on the Twitch. Joe says, can you imagine being the first performer on the stage this week? You know, especially if you have, like, this is your first show in probably over a year. Your first time back on stage. Like, you didn't set up any gigs on the way to Cadott. You just kind of like, we're in. How does this thing work again? I don't understand. It's like me when I come back from a long weekend. I'm like, how do all these buttons work? But no, I mean, the artists that I've talked to, and especially ones that are going to be at Fest or have tours planned and stuff, I mean, they're talking about like flashbacks to the first show ever that they did and the butterflies and the jitters and, you know, kicking the dust off, because they're equally as excited to get back into you know, the opening up of live music. And there's really no rules, restrictions, or regulations as far as Country Fest is concerned. Come on out, and it's going to be a great time. But, yeah, the first artist is going to be like, where'd all these people come from? Yeehaw. Looking forward to that. Dr. J is in the house. I see him. Happy belated Father's Day, Dr. J. Nope, you're muted. I got to unmute you here. There, I think you're unmuted now. Now we can talk.
Yeah, man. How are you? How you doing? How was your Father's Day? It was a great day. Great day to spend some time on the golf course and of course with family.
Yeah, I took Junior camping this weekend. Did a family camping getaway, and you know, it was really weird. We were having a conversation with my other family members that were there. We've been going to this campground, and we decided it was like 33 years we've been there, and talked about the memories we made as kids there, and now looking at our kids making these memories. So it was really cool to have that family time. And golf course is planned, though. We wanted to have like, let's get the kids together, you know, because they're all, you know, between the ages of 11 and 18. But we're going to plan like a golf outing for when, like, the kids are gone. Let's go and do some golfing. So it's on our list. But I'm glad you got a chance to get out and enjoy.
It's all good for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back on the program. I wanted to talk about a couple of things with you today. Stacking successes and then overcoming failures. And when you talk about, and this could be really in any aspect, we'll kind of focus on the business portion of it, especially if you're a small business owner or a young entrepreneur or old entrepreneur, as I like to call myself. But stacking those successes and then overcoming failures are just two of the things that have really, for some reason, the last week kind of piqued my attention, because you have small wins and you can't really, you find it a weird conundrum whether you should dote upon those successes or should you just say, hey, cool, we got that done, and then continue to grow. So we'll start with stacking successes, and I'd like your 2 cents on the subject matter.
they kind of go hand in hand. They really do.
Mm.
And it's funny. I just got done writing for my private coaching group. I've got a program I'm doing tomorrow for them. 3 reasons why you need to stop following the herd.
Mm.
And number one is reaching for what makes your spirit soar, right? It's how to become heroic in your own life. And that only occurs when you leave the safe harbor of the known. And, it's impossible to achieve the goals that you want if you're going to play it safe. Mm-hmm. So part of the journey in growth, in achieving, look, I think inherently humans are designed to constantly strive to push themselves. But in the last generation or two, it's become very, cliche-ish to just kind of just go with it. Don't really rock the boat. We haven't evolved as a species, and particularly as Americans over the last 240 years by playing it safe. Right. I mean, look what we've done, that no other country has ever done in the history of the world. It's because we always push the envelope. We always challenge ourselves. We always step outside our comfort zone, even in the face of great loss or great adversity. Because in the attempt to achieve something great, oftentimes you will face massive adversity along the way. Well, that's a win. And I know your listeners could be saying, how's that a win? Because there's so much to be learned about who you are. There's so much character to be built, so much self-esteem to be realized in that adversity. So even in the struggles there are wins. And then, of course, if you ultimately get to where you want to go, and then sometimes you leave the safe harbor of the known and venture out, and you think you're going one way, and all of a sudden you wind up somewhere completely different, but that's ultimately where you should have been anyway. Right. And you just trust the process. And if you get to where it is that you want to go, then the win is just absolutely enormous, and it's life-changing. And honestly, Coop, it's not even so much about things, materialism and that kind of stuff. The whatever it is that drives you. And don't get me wrong, stuff is fun, right? I'm not going to tell you stuff isn't fun, but it's empty if that's what the goal is. If the journey is to take you to transcend who you are and impact people around you and make the world, your community, your family a better place, that's phenomenal, right? And the byproduct of that is you may, experience some financial gain from that as well, and then be able to enjoy some of the other fun stuff. So, success and adversity go hand in hand. Success is about constantly pushing yourself and challenge yourself. I've often said, if you don't do something every day to make yourself at least a little uncomfortable, sometimes it's just running at a faster pace. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's parking all the way at the end of the parking lot and not looking for that first spot close to the door and then walking all the way in. I get it. They're not big, huge, but it's going to work, driving to work in a different direction. Mm-hmm. These are subtle little things that literally stimulate our neurological system to act and react in a very different way. And the more we do that, the more the uncomfortable becomes comfortable. And we begin to embrace the change. I got to tell you a quick story. When I was in practice, I took care of a gentleman. He worked a blue-collar job in the trades, and he was very successful. And I was leaving on vacation, and he says, "Boy, man," he goes, "you go away a lot." And I say, "Yeah, my wife and I, we love to travel." And he goes, "Where's the most enjoyable place you've ever been?" I said, "Well, I fortunately have been to a lot." I said, "But the first one that pops to my mind is when we were in Greece, and we climbed where is it? I'm drawing a blank right now. Anyway, and I said, "Well, where's the favorite place you've been?" And he laughed. He joked to me. He goes, "Eau Claire." And I said, "Come on." I said, "Where?" He goes, "No, Eau Claire." And I said, you haven't traveled anywhere?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Come on, you haven't even been to Altoona?" "No, excuse me." I said, "Chippewa?" Yeah. And he goes, "No." And I said, you're kidding me, right? In 30 years, you haven't been out of Eau Claire. You haven't even been to Chipwood. He goes, no.
Wow.
So that's what I'm talking about, right? It's that safe comfort. And it can be argued, are we really living? Mm-hmm. Are we just merely punching the time clock of life?
And I understand that travel thing too, because I never really traveled much, even growing up. I remember going on one trip as a child. My mom took me to Sarasota, or to Tampa, Florida, Tampa, St. Pete for like over Christmas. And by the way, it was the coldest winter on record in Florida. We went down there, and I'm like, this is what you brought me to? It's like 23 degrees on Sarasota Beach. And I called back home and like, oh yeah, it's like 33 here. I'm like, wait, it's warmer in Wisconsin than it is down here in Florida. But so not having that much of that travel, but I did move a lot as a child. And then when I settled in, I got into radio, and just by pure happenstance, my circle became incredibly small. Like my circle of travel, it was 1.25 miles to work. It was less than 1 mile to my child's school. The grocery store was 1.5 miles. I got into such a routine. 9 years I spent really in this circle, where like going across town felt like this, like to the west side. You want to go to the west side of Eau Claire? Like, I don't know. That seems like 15 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. And so when I moved, even 20 minutes away from Eau Claire, from like the hub of where things are, I was like, oh, this is going to be like the biggest challenge for me, is this travel thing. Then I ended up getting a job working for the music festivals, which is 20 minutes away the other direction. Now, all of a sudden, even these small travel patterns, they seem like nothing. It's like, oh yeah, 20 minutes to get to Eau Claire, that's nothing. That's, it's 4 songs on the radio, or it's, 20 minutes into a podcast. Going to work in the morning, it's a great time for, really enjoying the scenery, because it's up 178, so you're kind of enjoying what Wisconsin looks like, farmland and small towns and stuff. But it's amazing how you get trapped in these little circles. And again, this can be overlaid into business, because you're used to kind of just staying in that circle where it's comfortable. I can drive to work. I know it's exactly 4 minutes to get to work. It's 3 minutes to get to the school. It's 5 minutes to get to the grocery store. And anything outside of that's like a little bit, it's the danger zone. Like, I question what goes on past Festival Foods on Gulf Road. I'm like, I don't know. Bad things happen. You start to get towards the mall, things get iffy. But it's the same way when you look at a business mindset or a growth mindset. You kind of get in this comfort zone, and you kind of know where everything is, and you just kind of go through the motions, and anything outside of that comfort zone feels, you can get anxiety. You can get like, I kind of want to stand back from that, because it's unfamiliar territory. We used to park in the same parking stall every time we went to the grocery store. Come in, take a left, and it's either that third or fourth stall is always open. But once you start to expand outside of that, and I love the way you talk about taking a different ride to work. It doesn't seem like a major thing, but your body and your mind function in a different way when you're doing that, because you're like, well, I'm used to take a left, and I always see this house on the right, and I always see this. All of a sudden, you have new scenery, you have new direction, you have new things that your brain is absorbing, and all of a sudden, maybe that becomes your route. Then you want to find a different route. It's all about this expansion thing, and I love the comparison to leaving this circle of comfort in business, because once you get out there, you go, I didn't even realize there's a much better grocery store 10 minutes away. Wow, now I really like shopping here. Wow, there's a really cool restaurant that's 5 minutes from that grocery store. And all of a sudden you start to expand. And again, this is all proverbial, and it's overlaying the business mindset. But the further out you go from your comfort zone, sometimes you can look back and go, wow, it wasn't all that great back there. The surroundings, the trees weren't that pretty. The grass wasn't that green. The amenities weren't all that prosperous. You start to expand on that and travel more and get out more, and you're like, wow, there's so much more to see, and that anxiety lessens, and you now all of a sudden you're thirsty for finding new places and new ways and traveling further distances. So not being out of Eau Claire in 30 years, that's I did live in Altoona, so I guess I could say I crossed the city line, but it's basically the bridge. So crazy.
Yeah, I want to give your audience some simple suggestions of how to begin to embrace getting uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And it could be simply taking a different route to work. Or tonight, instead of brushing your teeth, if you're right-handed, with your right hand or left hand, choose the opposite hand. Feel how different that is. Literally brushing your teeth with a different hand begins to create new synapses. What does that mean? It means the brain fires in certain ways that stimulates your brain's advancement, right? Slows the rate of decline, mental decline. Another example, if you sleep on the right side of the bed, sleep on the left side of the bed. And I'm telling you, your listeners are going to try this and go, oh my God, I didn't realize how uncomfortable this is, right? If you shower in the morning, shower at night. If you shower in hot water, shower with cold water. If you sit on the right side of the dinner table, sit on the left side of the dinner table. If you watch the news at night, turn it off or watch cartoons. Just disrupt your patterns. And the more you disrupt your patterns, the more you get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Now, there's a flip side of this, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow with my clients, is there's the pessimistic side, right? When we huddle down into this cocoon, we become very insulated and cynical of anything that is outside our norm. And so therefore we can take this pessimistic view of life. And a pessimist is someone who always looks for the calamity or something that's always going to go wrong with every opportunity, right? You know that person.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Even in opportunity or in something good, they expect something bad to happen. How do I know? I used to be that way. I always anticipated something going wrong until I changed my mindset. Now I expect the opposite. But pessimists natively seek out what could go wrong and the reasons not to seize an opportunity or a possibility, like a heat-seeking missile whizzes right past them, right past the target. So I talk about being a possibilitarian or a person of immense vision, a hopefulist or a radical enthusiast. Now, the more you own your power and develop the exceptional confidence that comes with making your fantasies real, the bigger your dreams become, the greater game you play. And when that happens, even more people around you will begin to think you're weird or foolish, and maybe even wrong in your beliefs or vision. And you know what? Embrace that. That means that you're growing. So if people don't question some of the stuff you do, you're probably not growing very much. And the final, to kind of wrap that up, is that those who choose to condemn you are locked in their own limited beliefs because they're terrified of their own bigness. And the magic that was awake within them, maybe when they were kids, has been stuffed deep into the darkest natures through life's trials and tribulations and traumas. So remember, most people project outward what they believe inward, and it's not so much about you as it is their own insecurity. So step up to your bigness, man. Embrace the success and accept the adversities as a blessing, because that's how you toughen the skin. That's how you become old and you get gray hair and you get wisdom, and people seek you out for advice.
Yeah. See, that's the look. Like, that guy, he knows things. He's been through the fire and he's walked through it and he's walked out. No, I think you talked a little bit about adversity, and I kind of liken it to a failure when you're trying to accomplish something, because it kind of coincides with the same thing. If you're trying to build something and you have a setback, there's a couple different pathways I think people tend to fall into. The easiest one is, well, I tried it, it didn't work, but I tried, and give up on whatever the ultimate goal was outside of that obstruction. There's people who also look at that failure as opportunity to learn, opportunity to, like you just said, to toughen the skin a little bit, to walk through the fire. Okay, we realize this didn't work. What are the reasons that this didn't work? X, Y, and Z. We didn't do this, or we did this too much. We've learned something. We can continue to grow. There was a great correlation, I think. It may have been you, Jay, that had told me this. Like, that's science. Like science is basically without failure, there is no growth in science, because if they don't go, oh, that's not it. We know why that didn't work out, or that didn't create the particular outcome we were looking at. Now we know to try something different. That's why the light bulb got invented. Edison did 11,000 different filaments that he tried to create the light bulb. I believe one was actually also he tried somebody's beard hair as a filament one time and didn't work out, which thankfully, because, well, maybe not. This could be a high commodity. But there's always this sense of, I got to this point, I maybe achieved some small success, but then something happened. And that's that crossroads of, do you continue to go on, or do you kind of huddle back and say, look what happens when I step outside of my comfort zone and I hit an obstacle and I fail. And some people retract back, and some people take that opportunity to learn and then to progress forward from there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me also kind of speak to people maybe are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, who are followers of your show. Cognitive decline usually coincides with a loss of ambition in life. As you begin to, in your 50s, in many cases, you're in a good place. You may be financially comfortable. You're not as hungry, and that's not a good or bad thing. But the comfort comes as a guest, stays as a host, and ultimately destroys, because we lose that appetite to learn, to expand, to grow. So what I'm saying is, cognitive decline as we age, 50s, 60s, and 70s, is often tied when we lose that fire, that ambition to continue to grow and to progress and to learn. And sometimes it's just learning a new craft, or going on YouTube and watching a video on woodworking, or whatever the case it may be, right? Doesn't mean like to change the world kind of stuff, but we always inherently, like I said, always need to be pursuing expanding our mind, expanding our vision. And if you look at people who age gracefully and well, healthy and emotionally, it's because they're pursuing their passions. They're dancing, they're traveling, they're going out playing, cards with their friends or whatever. They have a strong social life. So this is far beyond just about success. This is about longevity and quality of life.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned 50s, 60s, 70s in that age bracket, but I think in this day and age, you see that trending younger too, where you get somebody in their 30s and even into their 40s, and they start to lose that. And it feels like this flashback to back in the day when 40 was like black balloons and everybody, well, this is it. This is the final rodeo. You've reached 40. I think that I had a perspective that had changed, and especially when I turned 40, I'm like, I don't feel like over the hill. There's no black balloons. There's no, no nothing. There's still this drive and hunger. But I think from my perception, there are still people that reach like a certain age and maybe a certain place where they don't have that drive. They don't have that hunger, not just to learn, but to be healthy, to exercise, to explore the things that they really love doing. Because they're like, oh, well, I'm 30 now. And I look at people who say that, and I'm like, if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have had a different perspective. But I think it can be of all ages. I think, 50, when you mentioned that is right. That you kind of get into, you're probably financially, you've accomplished enough in your 50 years to live well, or at least, to not have to worry about things as much. But man, losing that drive, that's a scary thing I can imagine to wake up to, when you're just like, well, I guess I'm good. Like, let's see how it plays out. See how the dice come out in this life, and you're like, well, in theory, you're kind of at halftime at 50. If we say if you're at least in semi-decent health, you could live to be 100. Like, you're at halftime. There's plenty of things you could still accomplish, and plenty of things you could also learn and then pass along to continue that growth process within the confines of your family. So, man, you hope people find a hunger, find their passion, or find the energy to say, man, I'm finally going to pick up that thing that I've always wanted to try, always wanted to do, step out of my comfort zone and grow and learn. And again, all the benefits that you talked about that it leads to, continuing to learn, continuing to grow for longevity and health, kind of outweighs the opposite. A
buddy of mine started a company called the 100-Year Lifestyle, and It's wonderful. You can check it out. It's hunteryourlifestyle.com. But his research has found that centenarians is the largest growing demographic in our population right now. And it's like not even close.
Wow.
So more and more people than ever are living to 100 plus. Unfortunately, many didn't take care of themselves along the way. So they get there and they're incapable of living life on their own, and maybe from a cognitive standpoint. Mm-hmm. So with the technology and knowledge we have now, is that you can live to 100 and be very active and be sharp of mind and be independent and so on and so forth. So it's funny, we started about success. Now we're talking about quality of life, which honestly, you could have all the success in the world and all the money in the world, but if you don't have the physical and mental well-being, what difference does it make? Right? It's been said, we spend the first 40 years of our life pursuing wealth at the expense of our health. Mm-hmm. Then we get the wealth and we're trying to then spend all our money to get our health back.
It's an interesting conundrum we put ourselves in there. Like, well, it's, knowing is half the battle. Try to interweave all that stuff. I think that's the importance of balance in all of the things, in your health, in your fitness, in your mental well-being, whether that's meditation or whether that's breathing exercises or whether that's a faith that you gravitate towards. There is a financial aspect of it. I think there's a relationship aspect of it. We had a great conversation on relationships last week. I think it's everything. It's all of the things, and that's what continues growth in all areas. Growth in your relationships, growth in your business, growth in your your prosperity and your purpose. Like, what are you here for? What are you here to contribute to the world? How's your peace in your mind? All of those things combined into one, it kind of completes the circle, because I think all things can fit inside of those categories. So work on everything, basically, right, Jay? Just do everything. Just work on it all.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what's fun, right? Because there's so much to learn, and the knowledge is changing and evolving. So even when you think you got to figure it out, go back. There's still a lot more to learn.
Plenty more to learn. Dr. J, always a pleasure to have you on, sir. When can we expect a new episode of the Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast?
We dropped one today, and I did a follow-up to our 11 reasons why I chose not to get the COVID shot. We had about 8 or 10 questions that kept coming up. Mm-hmm. And so people want to know, how safe is it for kids? What's going on in Israel? Why is there all this, these young men coming down with a pretty serious, potentially deadly heart condition called myocarditis? How's that playing with the shot? Where the research is coming from, so on and so forth. So we get a little bit deeper into it. And it's funny because my wife said, she goes, I thought that was going to be your last COVID one. I said, you know what? I wanted it to be, but I can't, because it's too important of a topic and people want to know. So as long as people keep asking, I'll keep doing.
Awesome. Dr. J, always a pleasure, sir. We'll catch up with you in a week, and take care. And maybe we'll get on the golf course one of these days.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks. Jay LaGuardia right there on the show. Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast. New episode and a follow-up to the 11 reasons why I did not get the COVID vaccine. All available everywhere quality podcasts are heard. Always good stuff with Dr. J. And I hope you absorb all that stuff. I mean, there's so many good tidbits that always come out of our conversations each week. And we kind of touch on it all. We've talked COVID, and we've talked vaccines, we've talked masks, we've talked health, we've talked fitness, we've talked business, entrepreneurship, relationships, and stacking successes, all the things. It's all about that full circle. It's all about all of the things in life that are beneficial, and how they're all interconnected to one another. You can be successful and wealthy and completely out of shape, and then you have health issues, and it's not a whole lot of fun to have all of that money to be able to spend and to do and to be, philanthropy, all the things that you wanted to do with your life if you don't have your health about you. It's also very tough to be maybe super healthy, but not have the financial aspect to be able to go and do the things that you could do to make the world a better place. Whether that's you want to travel, you want to do missionary work, you want to, save the sea turtles. Like, you can't have one without the other. It's very difficult to do. healthy relationships as well, strong mental well-being, being aware. Whether that meditation is obviously a thing that I key on. And I've actually gotten to the point that I've been meditating almost the exact same way for probably 3 years. The Headspace app, I've really been centrally focused on that. And, it gives me you've meditated for 12,540 minutes. So I always feel oh, cool. I should be super aware. And then I'm not. And I feel like there's still more areas of that to grow into. So I've started to try and dabble in some different types of meditation. I think that's, again, that core 4 stuff, You got to get the mind involved too. It's all interconnected. Relationships, health, wealth, mindset, all the things. And it's pretty much encompassing of all the things that you do in your life. As of my 2 cents for today. We're going to take a short break. Going to come back, and Jimmy Nelson, Coach Jimmy Hayes Nelson, another incredibly inspiring, motivating individual, is going to join the program in just a bit, so stand by. We'll BRB. And we're back. Welcome back. Good to see you all again. Well, you know what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Another thanks to Dr. J for being on the show today. He's back next Monday. We'll have a lot to recap after Fest Weekend. I'm really looking forward to this week, and not just obviously for the festivities and live music and people out and interacting, but really to take a couple seconds to kind of observe, and I'm sure I'll take more than a couple seconds, but to observe how people in mass gatherings interact. It'll be the first time that I have seen anything of a large magnitude like that when you talk 20,000 people. Obviously, it's outside. There's plenty of space. There's the campgrounds. There's lots of room for people. But just to be interested to see how, after a year of not remembering how to interact with people on that scale, just how people are. Because you've observed people as you go to the grocery store, or maybe you've gone out to eat, or you've gone to a bar, or you've gone to some function where there's been not a lot of people, but a healthy handful. how do those interact? How do you interact when you're at a grocery store and you see somebody who, especially when the mask mandate was in place, how people reacted to those who weren't wearing masks, and social distancing, and the dots and the arrows and all the shit that was on the ground. Stand here. Of course, what we learned from Dr. J months and months ago, that doesn't matter. But how will it be? That's. I'm just interested. I just want to observe. I want to stand back and just kind of watch, get a good breath of how do people interact on that kind of scale, and of course, in the celebratory fashion that it will be when you're talking about the first major music festival to happen in this area, and really in most areas. There was Moondance Jam, I think, happened over in Minnesota this past weekend. Blues Fest was downtown, but this is like the first big one in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how people commingle with one another over the course of will be 3.5 days. So good stuff from Dr. J, and more good stuff expected from my good friend Jimmy Nelson. The coach is back. The man who got me into really solidifying my morning routine because of his morning routine. And all I can say is thank you to Coach Jimmy, because he is the one that really inspired. And I know people who have watched the show and Jimmy's been on before, and they've said, you know what, I went and I downloaded the ebook, and now I have a morning routine, and now they're just kicking ass. It's all because of Coach Jimmy. How you doing, my friend? It's been a minute.
Coop, what's up, man?
All of the things are up, man. It's been a wild and crazy time since the last time we spoke, but you've been after it, talking to people, changing lives, doing good things. How you been?
Hey, I don't think we really talked about all the things we were going to talk about today, but this is so perfect when I popped in, and because I was like, oh, I just came off hosting my first live event since all this went down, right? And so you're talking about a music festival, and then literally I just got back from Disney World yesterday, and I got there the day that I got there. A buddy of mine, so people in the audience that we haven't met, hi, I used to work at Disney World, and he messaged me, he works for guest relations, and he said, hey man, welcome. This is the first day you don't have to wear a mask in the park. You timed this right. And so it was really interesting to see that the only place masks were still required was on like the transportation. So on the buses. And then now they have like this Skylink gondola system that it's like it's really cool. And you have to wear it on that. But besides that, there was no masks. And so I just came off 2 weeks of my first live kind of entrepreneurial event. I hosted Advance Your Reach, my friend Pete Vargas, where he helps people get on stages. I hosted his event that was actually here in Dallas at the Fairmont Hotel around the corner. And we did a 3-day event, and it was a hybrid. So we had 120 people in the room, but then it's not just like a live stream. It really was an interactive, like all these online events. So as a host, it was challenging to be able to make sure both audiences felt taken care of. But I was like, oh, what a perfect segue. Let's talk about events and how things are getting kind of back to normal and how people are handling that.
Yeah, I'm emceeing a 3-day music festival, or 3.5-day music festival here in Wisconsin that starts on Wednesday night, and I was
awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you very much. I mean, 20,000 people, back in it's Wisconsin, so it's in a giant field, as most music festivals are. But it's interesting to. I've always loved watching people and just how people operate. It's always just a thing, a people watcher, but when you have had a year like we've had, and the adjustments that we've made and the changes that we've made, and some people's wiring that has changed, that's one of the part. I want to say it's not what I'm most looking forward to. I'm looking forward to like the joy of people and music and beverages and just that let the BS of the last year go. But it's like interesting to just observe people and how they react around other people after the year that it has been. So but it is good to see that you're getting back out and doing live stuff and going down to Disney and back to the roots. Jimmy goes back to Disney.
I thought it was interesting too, because, and this is where I just want to respect everybody's comfort level. So you talked about that, like we've kind of adjusted where normal is and what new normal is, and some people are ready to sprint back to as if nothing ever happened. and there's certain people that are still optimistically cautious. And I guess specifically more so at Disney than with the event is inside the parks. I saw a mix of people. There were still like people and families that were wearing masks some. And for me, I was like, I can celebrate that. Like, look, do what makes you comfortable. Obviously, you aren't so uncomfortable that it prevented you from coming to Disney. Okay.
Right.
But then you also were able to wear masks, so you didn't feel like it needed to be mandated necessarily for everybody at this point. And I feel like, you know, I know everybody has different views on this, but I think part of the amazing thing about us, this country, is that freedom of choice. And I think everybody has the right to feel comfortable, you know. And so I thought that was great that, okay, there were some people there that wanted to do that and that made them feel better about being the same. Awesome. I applaud you. And there were people there that were like, hey, you know, I'm ready to get back to whatever normal is, whether that was because they got vaccinated and then felt better about this, or they just were like, hey, you know, they felt like they were ready to return to normal life or whatever that was for them. So it was interesting to watch a mixture of people with that many people walking around as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's even in this festival, we had a logistics meeting last week, and that's one thing that we kind of talked about, you know, just with the groups that were there. It's like, this is all about like respecting your neighbor. Like, it's the fact
Absolutely.
Everybody has, you know, their choice, their opinion. That's, you mentioned, it's a great thing about America is you can think this and like, it's cool. Like, so as long as you're like cool with your neighbor doing what your neighbor wants to do, like, it's all good. And that's, I think that was one of the things that they were really reiterating, especially to like security and stuff, was just like, hey, just, you know, as long as the message is out there, like, just, hey, we're all here. We're obviously we're not fearful to come out. Like you mentioned, going to Disney. Obviously you're like, well, we're still going to Disney. There's that.
Right. It wasn't like somebody was forced into that giant crowd.
You're going to go to Disney.
Level.
Yeah. But, you know,
well, and now that I'm thinking about it, even before these last two events, I went to game 3 of the Mavs Clippers series that I'm still recovering from. And now that we have no GM and no coach, and all we know is we have Luka, Cuban, and Dirk's going to help us find some people now.
He's going to call some friends.
But I went to game 3, and so that was like Cuban went like, we're opening this whole thing up. And it was really funny to watch that night. So I knew it was going to be bananas in the stadium because it was Luka's first game in front of like a first playoff game in front of a crowd, because the year before they were in the bubble, right? And it was nuts. We as Dallas fans aren't known as the craziest, most ravenous fans. We're a bit of sit back and entertain me, and it drives me a little nuts. But like everybody on their feet the entire first quarter, but it was funny to watch. Masks on everybody at first, and then as the game kind of went on, walking around the concourse, the whole mask mandate got a little more lax as we got into the fourth quarter as well.
Yeah. By the way, hashtag fear the deer.
Oh, dude! Congratulations! It's going to be a killer series, man. And I'm glad. As an OU alum, I was stoked for my boy Trae Young. That game last night was pretty interesting because I was like, for them to win and Trae not to have like a huge game. Yeah. I think it's really interesting that we really have 4 teams in the Final Four that don't have any like recent championship history. I don't know that the NBA is thrilled with this Final Four. But I think it is nice because I feel like basketball, out of all the sports, tend to be the same champions over it. If you look back over the past like 20 years, there's just a handful of people that have won a championship.
Yeah. And I think it reignites the energy. And there has been in Milwaukee, you know, for the past several years since Giannis came in and had some success and playoff pushes and a really, you know, the Pfizer Forum gets built. And so you have this like energy around the city. But I think you also have, I'm not like a longtime Bucks fan, because I mean, for a long time, I'm like, I got success over in Green Bay. Like I'll focus on. That was
us as Mavs fans the entire 90s, right? It was like, I remember we win 8 games a year or 11 games a year.
But I think even for like even Atlanta and, you know, the Clippers, and you know, the Phoenix Suns, it is I think it revitalizes like the watchability of the NBA, because I think there does get to be a bit of okay, well, if it's not Steph, it's LeBron, you know. Or
it's KD. I saw something on Twitter that it was like, this is the first time, and I forget. I retweeted it. I'll have to look it up. But I forget what the year was, but this will be the first year in a long time that the finals didn't have LeBron, Steph, or KD in one of those fashions, that way. And so, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, I guess I can see that if the casual basketball fan, doesn't plug in because it's not a household name that they know. I feel like it's a little bit of the Tom Brady syndrome when it comes to the Super Bowl. There's probably, casual football fans that don't watch the season but plug into a Super Bowl party because, Tom Brady's in it. And all they think is Tom Brady's in it every year, which isn't technically true, but close enough.
Pretty much,
right?
It pretty much feels like it. You're like, when wasn't he? Oh yeah, that one year. That was odd. Wait, he's wearing a different uniform now. But it's been. I can't remember last time we talked. I know it's been quite a while since we had you on the show. But how have you been as we progress? And I don't want to say towards normal. I just want to say as you talked about things opening back up. How have you maintained, your enthusiasm, your energy level? I see you're still getting after it at the gym. I obviously expected nothing less from Coach Jimmy than to be after it all the time. But I always thought, and I think we even talked about this last time I had you on, is there was a lot of multiple trajectories as we went through the pandemic. There was those that were like, cool, I just got a free pass to do nothing.
Right.
And achieved exactly that. There's also a facet of people that said, man, a lot of great things in the course of history have blossomed out of tragic times.
Sure.
And whether that's a personal thing with health and fitness, like, maybe I can't get to my gym, but maybe I'm going to take up something else, whether that's starting a new business, or maybe you figured something out like, oh, well, I see now that during this time, there's a need for this thing. A lot of entrepreneurs, I think, grew out of the pandemic. I think you saw a shift in how that office work now will function, I think, going forward, as you look at the ability to have conversations on Zoom, which, again, should have invested in Zoom before this whole thing went down.
Right.
But how have you been, like, able to keep climbing the stairs and keep moving forward and keep progressing with all of your ventures throughout this, with obstacles and stuff? Like, what is your mindset like when you're, going, I really want to have, dude, live events, that's your jam. And now you're finally getting back to them.
And it's twofold. On one hand, I had been building so I have multiple businesses, and one of those has been 15 years with Beachbody, building a very successful network marketing business, helping people get fit at home. And in the process of that, for years, I had been using, because most of my team and the clients and the people that I work with aren't local to me. I don't have like a big part of my team here in Dallas. I've always kind of recruited via social media. So when I got involved in that business, started in 2007, 08, was the first time people started looking to recruit and team build online. And I was kind of a part of the forefront of figuring out how to do that, right? And so for me, I had always held team meetings, trainings, stuff like that on, whether it was Zoom, Google Hangout when that was a thing. Like, I'd gone through all the iterations of that. I remember I used to block off 3 hours on a Saturday morning, and I literally would invite anybody on my team or not, and I would teach like basics every Saturday morning. And so for me, it wasn't that much of a shift on that front. From a business side, already having established myself in a market for in-home fitness, it wasn't like, I can't take some big credit that I was like, oh, this was all strategic. I happened to be in an arena where the need went up. And so I had already positioned myself that way. And there was probably a lot of businesses, as many businesses that suffered, there were things, there were jokes early on, like, wow, the toilet paper industry, wow, if you were just into toilet paper, you were great. There's reasons where things like Amazon doubled in value. It was these things that Zoom skyrockets. And so it's not necessarily that these things were probably strategic moves. But what I will say is there were people building things and working on creating things before there was a tragedy or some kind of epidemic. And I think one of the biggest messages I've had is, hey, while there have been challenges through this, and my heart goes out to those people that have lost jobs and been furloughed and all those things. Like, I think that's tragic. I think the lesson in this won't be the last epidemic of our lifetime or some tragedy. The only thing I had to compare it to was, look, I built my business in 08 when the housing market crashed and the economy was in the crapper and stuff. So I started building when people were losing jobs and homes and didn't have money. And just like you said, there are times, and we go look over history and history, there is opportunity to grow when things are down. Now, it's not going to be for the masses, and that's what you have to understand. In fact, the event that I just helped Pete Vargas host, I did the previous year right as like that first spike in, I guess, fearfulness, like, oh, this pandemic is real, right? And I got up to Charlotte, and I remember Pete was going to offer a coaching program at the end of this thing, and in my head, I'm like, nobody's buying this, Pete. Like, it was a heck of an event. It's someone who really truly believes in investing in yourself.
Right.
It was a hefty investment in a year-long mentorship in 3 or 4 workshops, teaching people literally how to build their own online business. And what I realized is, like, I realized my own limiting belief, which I feel like I like to tell myself I don't have these things, but then when like push comes to shove, I thought, man, nobody's going to buy this. He's just going to get, it'd be a good encouragement. And I think I watched him sell multiple millions of dollars of this program because it wasn't from everybody. There was a pocket of people. He knew his audience to say that there were people that goes, I don't like the fact that what society told me was safe all these years, the get the job 401k, this is security. I just realized that isn't safe. And I don't want to be reliant on that ever again. And so it wasn't about finding all the people.
Right.
It was finding the right people that said, nope, never again. And so that's where I'm like, so for me, it was leaning into that and already knowing how to train and touch people via this, which is a different skill set. I literally am a communications coach. My other business is helping people develop their story and how do they use their story as a marketing tool. And when I teach people, I was teaching physical workshops. And there's a difference about how do you give a story or a presentation or communicate in a room versus how do you do this on a camera. And, for me, the biggest challenge was I feed off people. Like, my energy comes from being in a room with another human being. And so, but I was thankful that I had the years connecting like you and I are now. Like, I think everybody knows how to handle themselves on a camera and a Zoom for the most part now, where that wasn't a thing. And again, you never know. And this is why I always feel like it's so important to always continue to work on ourselves and our skill. Because even when there's nothing pressing us, and that's the hardest part for a lot of people, when there's no urgency to coast, but you don't know when the left turn is coming. And one of the things I talked about at this event over and over again that's become my own mantra that I'm really trying to instill in other people is we don't get ready, we stay ready. And I'm going to go back to, you referenced the morning routine at the beginning of this thing. That for me is that idea of getting up. I send these videos out every morning via a text community that we could talk about in a little bit. But it's like that, what's the mindset? Move your body. Are you reading something that's developing some new skill set? Are you trying to grow even when there's no reason to? Because you don't know when this hits the fan and you're like, oh, all that stuff that I was working on that I was like, why am I doing this? Actually plays and like becomes activated now that something that nobody could have foreseen just happened.
A lot of great tidbits in there. I want to dissect them at first at finding those small pockets of people. When you talk about starting a business, I know there's always this hesitation, and there's also sometimes a thought process that everybody. You're like, well, I would never start a business that sells this now because nobody is going to invest in. I'm not going to sell, here's how to start a business when everybody's laid off and not making any money and not doing anything. Right. And it takes that alteration of your viewpoint of how you look at things. Like, well, and I don't want to use optimism or pessimism, but if you look at it from a different angle and you say, wait a minute, there's a bunch of people that were so secure that went into whether they had a college degree, whether they just found their job and they're like, you know what, I'm locked in, I'm 8 to 5, I get my 2 weeks a year and I get my weekends off, like I'm good. And then they weren't. And some people got that realization, like you talked about with John. They're like, I need to be able to hold my own and be able to grow my own vegetables in the garden here and
Right.
not worry about like somebody else goes, oh, well, we don't have a job for you right now because X, Y, and Z and the pandemic and things that it caused. So I think that is a great tidbit for people who are looking at something, because there's always going to be a reason that the time is not right. There's
Always.
Every single time. It's, well, you know, the kids, it's summer,
It can also be, things are good right now. I remember having conversations with these people before this all happened. Friends and stuff that I would have that weren't thrilled about their job. It wasn't bad. It was a good job, but and I was like, well, why don't you just look around? You never know. And I got pushback about even looking around. Well, later, the time's not right. Well, then all this happens. Well, the time's not right because there's no jobs and everybody's going through this emotional hardship. And you really nailed it. There's never a right time. And there are and one thing before you continue is I want to say that there are certain people, now that the job markets are coming back, I know here in Dallas and in Texas, there's a lot of things. And there's people really anxious to jump back into corporate America. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. I just want to be really clear about that. But what I would encourage those people to do as they're re-entering the job force is don't make the same mistake, but that's the only thing you're reliant on. In the history of ever, it is never, I was almost going to use the word easy, but it's not easy. There's never been more access to creating some kind of side hustle. I'm not saying it has to be a 6-figure-a-year side hustle or bling bling I'm on a yacht, but what would like a couple $100 extra bucks a month mean to somebody? And there's so many ways to do it now, whether it was, I found that through network marketing. Now there's, affiliate marketing. You can start a podcast or a show and find sponsors. There's really never been more ways. And people literally, go on YouTube and ask, how do I make money online? Or how do I create something? And that's what I just really, you were talking about. I was just encouraging people, hey, during this downtime, get a new skill set. Learn something you didn't know before. And it was always just amazing to me, people that had the reasons of, well, I'm just so emotionally distraught, I can't. And I get it. There's a time to grieve and there's a time to be in shock. But at some point, we all have to draw the line in the sand and go, cool, I've had my time to take off. I've had my time to grieve. I've had my time to be pissed off or shocked. I've had my time to maybe just vacation and chill for the first time maybe ever in my life. Yeah. But at some point, you have to figure out, okay, what's next? And if that is get back into the job market, it's great. But why wouldn't you go, okay, all I know is I would love to get another job and feel that security again, but I also know that I never want to go through what I just did again. And so, again, the message I kept saying was, I started my business in the last time there was some kind of economic downturn in 2008 with the housing crash. It was, and again, I'm going to be really clear about this. It wasn't that I was some brilliant strategist that knew this was the next one. Right. But I do feel like I was rewarded for taking action when things were down and staying consistent with that, right? So I benefited. I was able to maintain pretty much the same lifestyle through this tragic time. I was able to help friends of mine. I mean, that was the coolest part, Coop, was like being able to people that needed money or an opportunity or, hiring virtual assistants and things like that. I got to actually help other friends of mine because, look, okay, things in my world actually got busier. Right. So I need help. So maybe I can find some, and help these things. So right now, people have the same opportunity to start something small. I think people get this all or nothing grandiose, I got to build this huge thing, and they get overwhelmed and that seems crazy. And I'm like, no. Just find some little tiny things you can do. So maybe down the road, if this happens again, you're not in as dire straits.
No, absolutely. And I think it also circles back to that. If you keep this thing, whatever that side hustle is,
yeah,
super, super beneficial if it's something that you're like passionate about. Like, hey, I like doing this, but it's not at the point where it can be like a full-time thing.
Sure.
But then you have that perspective that we just kind of talked about was like when something happens, when I want to say another pandemic, but some sort of turn, because they're pretty consistent. They happen. You have to look at it from a perspective of there is a pocket, there is a group. How do I reach them? How do I attack them? And with this opportunity that could be possible because of what you started and kind of just let it grow organically. I wanted to talk about your morning routine stuff as you were mentioning. again, thank you. I mean, I kind of had like this a la carte thing that I was working on for a while. I'm like, I'm going to get up at maybe this time, and then I'm going to maybe do some reading, But I think over the years that you and I have had communicated, it's really become something that is the great watering of the garden. And I've used that reference now twice in this, but it is that first thing in the morning. It is the value that it adds to your day. It is the amount of accomplishment it adds to your day, and that continual growth. And the importance of it, I haven't been able to yet define, because it's like a moving finish line.
Yeah.
Every time you grow a little bit, like the finish line moves a little bit, and you're like, wait a minute. But then as you realize, like, as I grow, there's more out there. There's more to experience. There's more knowledge to gain. As you've passed along, your morning routine and the things that you've picked up over the years, like, how often do you make alterations to your morning routine? I don't want to say alterations as in like, I don't do it on Saturdays, but I mean like, okay, I'm going to maybe add in this little element. Have you done that since you've got the ebook out?
Yeah, it's a couple things you just touched on. The answer is yes. It does evolve, and it is really, and this is something I had to learn, is falling in love with the process, because we tend to go into things the way somebody would. I look at my own 100-pound weight loss fitness journey as such a great example of this. Like, I work harder now on my fitness at 43 years old, in the best shape of my life, than I did when I was starting. Right? I work harder because somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the process of personal growth. And instead of being demoralized that the finish line moves, it was, who did I hear the other day? So like I said, I send these, I have this text service that I send the same videos. So it's not even me talking. It's the videos I watch on YouTube every morning when I start my day.
Right.
And I think it was John Maxwell he said something along the lines of, the big shift for him was not how fast can I get there, but now how far can I go? And in other words, like, okay, I've grown this much, but then there's the next thing and the next thing. And I know that's easy for somebody to go like, oh, well, that seems defeating, that you're always having to work on something. But when you start actually living the benefit of it, you said something, and I think for me, that routine is something that created some emotional security and grounding for me, specifically in unsure times. I think another reason I don't think I went through some of the same depression. I mean, obviously I didn't lose a job or anything, but some of the same depression during isolation or quarantine and all that stuff was that I had this grounding, because this certainty, right? Tony Robbins talks about how there's 6 human needs, and one of those is certainty. Well, that time there was a lot of things we weren't controlling.
Right.
So my morning routine, what time I woke up, listening to this audio, doing my workout, reading, journaling, the things that I talk about a lot, made me feel like I was still in control of something, because society or the virus or whatever the government was saying at the time couldn't take any of those things away from me. So for me, it was the same thing. Like when I started my weight loss journey, there was a lot of things, 3-time college dropout. I moved back in with my parents. There were all these things I couldn't control. So I was like, but I can control pushing play and doing this workout and the effort I give today. And so, but as far as the question of has it changed? Yeah, it tweaks, it's what do I need right now in this season of my life to move me forward? And it's usually the thing I don't want to do. And it's a little bit about getting out of my comfort zone, because I'm like, okay, at this point in my life, the workout part, that's like no brainer. Like I look forward to it. Like I go nuts if I can't move. In fact, when I just went to Disney, it was the first time I went 7 days and I didn't work out. And you know why I did that? For me, that was more outside my comfort zone. Usually I work out when I travel. I'm one of those weird people that work out on vacation because it's fun. I walk 10 miles a day in the parks.
That's true.
But,
yeah.
I literally, I wore my Garmin to find out.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, this right now I'm coming off a pretty productive part. And I've been working really hard in the gym and with my trainer and physically, and came off this event. I was like, can I go 7 days and chill? that was actually it was the flip side of that. But as far as other things, it's cool. What book do I need right now that's going to move? Because it's like, it's usually the thing I don't want to read, or it's, writing. Okay, here's a great example of something I know I need to add. So the event that I just did with Pete Vargas in Adventure Reach, they had Stormy Wellington spoke at it. And I'd never met her. Name's Coach Stormy, and she has like 2 million followers on Instagram. And so every morning on her Instagram feed, she meditates with her tribe, right? Dude, I'm going to tell you, meditation is something I've never done. I've never tried, really. I mean, the closest for me meditation comes is I do some stretch routines. I've done yoga, and I liked it. It's not something that's in my weekly routine right now. But for me to sit and be quiet is hard, because even in the mornings when I'm listening to my audio or my video, there's some noise, right? And so for me right now and that's what I love about being around in these live events again, is being around these people, right? And you get a perspective of, you said it earlier, like, oh, everyone I know is not going to do this. Well, our version of everyone is our current circle, right? They say we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and that includes online. Well, if those people all are in a fear mindset or all thinking, it's like how you look at the world has a lot to do with your circle. And so I'm in this circle and I'm hearing about meditation. So I'm like, okay, I got the wake up, I've trained myself to where I can pretty much wake up early on my own without the alarm now. I got the audios, I got the workout part. I'm like, okay, there was that. And there was some, and I'm good about writing affirmations. The other part she talked about was about speaking certain things, like literally out loud about yourself. And it was funny when I texted my community the other day, I was like, look, this is something I'm going to work on. And I'm going to be honest, it feels super cheesy when I start. Like, I am this. I attract these things. But you're trying to redefine who you are, because if you're always like, I'm an introvert, or I don't do this well, or this, man, life and death and the power of the tongue really is like the thoughts. When you put that out in actually in the air outside of your face, it feels weird. And if you feel, oh, that feels weird, or you're like, that's usually probably something we need to push into. Specifically, it comes with self-esteem or confidence or your income. So those are the 2 things right now for me, are really taking that time to speak things out loud and just embrace feeling stupid about it, and finding some time to meditate are my next 2 things to kind of work into mine.
Yeah, even you speaking those affirmations out loud, made me uncomfortable. I'm thinking about oh, these things I should really, add into that, change up the repertoire a little bit. Because sometimes when you have that morning routine, if it stays the same, it feels like there's still obviously benefit to it. I still feel like there's benefit, but it's almost like you're not in it. You're not being present in it. You're just kind of like, well, this is just what I do. So adding those things in, and I'll get to talking about meditation as I'm an avid meditator a little bit, but even just you saying, I'm going to say things out loud about myself, I'm like, well,
right.
She
wasn't the first person I've heard about this. Tony Robbins talks about kind of incantations and getting yourself up and pumped. And so, Coop, where I've literally been doing this is adding the step into the icy cold shower that sucks a bunch first thing in the morning. Yeah. And so if you do that, you get this moment, right? And so that's when I start talking I am blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, because they always talk about you got to put emotion behind these things. It's not just I attract good things and I make this much money, or I impact this many lives. So the 2 things that as I'm adding these things is I'm adding it there. And the other point I'm doing, so let's say it's an income goal, right? It's about, I earn this much a gig or this much a year. The thing I'm adding to the back end of that is, because I add value, because I stay ready, I have, you hear Jim Rohn or so many people talk about that. If you want, we're rewarded financially or people are rewarded financially about the value they bring to the marketplace. Takes us full circle. Why did Amazon double in worth, or however much they did during the, because that was a huge need and they brought the most value in that moment, right? And so it's not about the value of a human being as far as what they're worth as a person, right? That has nothing to do with that. But as far as income, I'm like, okay, if I have certain things that I want to make per speaking engagement or per year, or how many lives I want to impact, it goes back to what are my skill sets? The only way I can impact more lives, the only way my asking price can go up is that my deliverables go up. And that only happens because my skill set is better.
Right.
So in these incantations, instead of, it's not so much just like the secret of, oh, I make this many millions a year and I'm just attracting this to my life. I think there's value in speaking these things because we're uncomfortable with them. So then if we're uncomfortable, that's just telling me that our subconscious doesn't believe what we're saying, and that's what we have to train. But what if you add to the end of that, I earn this, or I have this job, or I have this position because of adding this skill set, or because I stay ready, or because, and for me, that makes it a little less cheesy.
Yeah.
And it also makes me feel the worth of it, that I'm not just asking out of greed, or I'm like saying these things because I want to like look like my life's a rap video, but it's really like, oh, I get to travel the world because it's a reward for this work, or something along those lines. And so it doesn't come across quite as cheeseballish to me so far.
No. I'm working on that. I'm working on connecting the non-cheeseball part of it, but I think
I know, I get it.
But I think that maybe is the secret of it, not the secret, but the secret is to have that reasoning behind it. Like why would you just blurt out this positive thing about yourself, or why would you say I'm the greatest this,
right.
I am this and here is why. Give that example. It's reaffirming to yourself that no, this is okay. It's okay to speak out, your truth, and here's the logic behind it. I want to talk a little bit about meditation, as I've been an avid meditator. I was actually talking about this, strangely enough, earlier on the show today. For, I think 3 or 4 years is something that I sat down with. I want to say it was part of that morning routine conversation that we originally had 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just like that a la carte thing. Like I want to add this element into it, and I find that the benefit of that silence, and again, I think we have a lot of the same characteristics of mind, where there's a lot happening. There's just a lot going on in between the ears. But what it's done, I think, over the years, and this is one of those things that takes time. It takes time and persistence, and always doing it. But what it's done for me is I'm able to now separate the emotion from the reality. Like this is happening. The lockdown is happening. Quarantine is happening. These things are going on. There was a car accident on my way to work and I had to wait. Our initial reaction as human beings is to attach an emotion to it. Well, this upsets me for this reason. This makes me sad for this reason, and this reason. And so you attach, all of a sudden, this whole pandemic thing, we'll use it as an example, but this is in all aspects. You attach all of these emotions to that ball that is the pandemic, and you just look at it and you're like, this makes me mad, sad, angry, mad again.
Right.
So mad. But when you're able to, and this is the process of meditation has done, is you're able to kind of just like compartmentalize things into like, you're emotional about an inanimate object. Like this is not like, and even, when you get kind of into the deeper levitating meditation and out of body stuff, you realize that it's like emotion is a thing, but it's not a real thing. It's just this thing that we have learned and adapted to over, millions of years of human existence, that we just automatically attach emotion to things. The great thing that meditation has taught me, amongst multiple other things, is the ability to rip away the emotion and really look at like, okay, this is what this is. And when you have the ability to do that, which again, practice and silence, and is you can kind of just look at a problem or look at a situation and not react internally, because sometimes our emotions can drive bad decisions, as maybe some of us have learned over the course of life. But you're able to go, okay, this is really what this is. And is this thing, this reality, this object, this thing that I encountered today really worth the amount of energy, effort, and emotion that I'm giving to it? Or can I just be like, that's that emotion and I don't need it, but here, let me look at this reality. It's really been a key to separating things. I think anytime you go through things in your childhood or you go through things in past relationships, you tend to automatically attach an emotion to it. And it just like you put a pin in it and it stays in it. And then when something else comes up, somebody says something that your ex said, and you're like, that makes me so mad because they're
Yeah.
and you're like, but it's a completely different context, a different person, a different situation. When you're able to kind of retract those emotions from things, it becomes, I mean, you get really clear on what's like worth investing emotion into, because emotion is still a super powerful tool. It's in the toolbox. But when you're able to really say, okay, this really deserves my emotion and my energy and my compassion and my love, and great. This, and usually they're negative emotions.
Yeah.
I don't really need to spend a lot of time with. I can just kind of let it go and let it be. So I encourage everybody to meditate. I'm actually trying to not wean off of, I've been doing kind of the same types of meditation for the last couple of years. I'm trying to try some new stuff and do some different things with it. But I think that's all part of that morning routine. We talk about filling your mind with the music and the energy and the words that you talk about with the YouTube videos that you have.
Yeah.
And you have the reading element, something that's growing your mind or expanding your growth, and adding that meditation really is that ability to almost take some of those things that you're learning and go, okay, let me just take a look at these with a clear mind. So,
well, and I also look at it real quickly. I look at it as the way, and I'll use an analogy of my acting days. Is man, one of my acting and performance mentors in New York City, we would dissect a scene or a monologue 8 different ways. We pick at it and look at it and stuff. And then finally there was a time where he would get to, he's like, okay, you pick, and you dig, and then stuff. And then, okay, he's like, now you just forget all that and just go out and perform.
Right.
And I feel like what you kind of described is the part where we tend to pick and dig and whatever thing. And then at some point we just let it go and just be. My trainer has a great, been working with him for the past 3 or 4 years, working on Olympic lifts and things I didn't grow up ever doing, and they're so technical, right? And so we're breaking down all the little steps of, some days all we're doing is, where are you lining up over the bar? It's this tedious stuff that seems very like paint the fence, right? Miyagi sign, like, why are we doing this? And then there's certain days he's like, all right, all this stuff we've been like, you're overthinking things. He's like, forget it all. Just go be an athlete. And you go and you like do this thing because all of that tedious work, then you let it go, it still shows up and benefits you later. And I feel like kind of what you described of that, when we can let it go, like we do all this tick, these tedious little things of, Jimmy, why am I listening to this 10 to 15 minutes of audio in the morning? Why am I doing this? Because it shows up somewhere else when you're not in the middle of the tedious work. When you just let it go, you're rewarded from the work somewhere else because now it's become ingrained subconsciously in your fiber, and so you're not having to think about it with the different way you react to maybe a negative situation or something in the past that might have sent you down some kind of overthinking or depressive spiral.
Yeah, 100%. It shows up in like you talked about. You not really realize that it's a part of it's part of the fiber of your being. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I guess that doesn't really affect me anymore. I could get through this. Why could I get through this? And when you start to analyze it, you're like, oh, it's because I did all the work, all the tedious stuff and the picking at it. No, you talked about a text messaging community. I know you wanted to maybe how do people get in on that?
So that makes sense. So they say the first like 10 to 12 minutes every morning, your brain is like prime fertile ground, and whatever you put in your head in those first 10 to 15 minutes every morning sets you up for like the rest of your day. And so what I found out was I was either turning on the news, sticking on ESPN, or even when I was just left with my own thoughts, 9 times out of 10, it was me talking like negative crap to myself.
Right.
And so what I found was I just would literally grab my phone and go to YouTube and put in motivational. And so it wasn't even that I was even watching the video, right? I'm like referencing my phone here. It was that something was speaking life into me and it gave me something to focus on. So like, as I was getting up, making the bed, going pee, getting ready for workouts, there was this 15 to 20, 30-minute window there that instead of just sitting in silence, I could have something speaking into me or something that was building me up. And so I started doing this and I was sharing it some of my Instagram stories and I had people like, well, what's that video? What's that? And so I just started polling my friends. I'm like, oh, I'm finding these. I said, you may just send you what I'm listening to every morning. They're like, yes. So I started this service and it literally is, I've been busy. Those 7 days I took off. It's literally me. None of this is automated. It's when I get up, I start listening. I'm like, oh, this one's good. And I send it out. So if that's something you or your audience would like to do, all you got to do is go to textcoachjimmy.com. And when you go to textcoachjimmy.com, what it's going to do is launch your messenger, right? It's going to launch like your text messages. Just text me the word morning. So go to textcoachjimmy.com, text me the word morning, and I'm just going to send you the same stuff. I'm literally in real time listening to that morning.
I love it, man. I love it. And that adds another element into it, because there is obviously you're getting the benefit out of it, but there's also that thing, and you understand it maybe more than anybody that I have on the show, is that sharing part of it. Like you're giving somebody else a little bit, hey, I've watered my garden today. I would like to offer you what's left over in the bucket so you can water yours as well. I think that's awesome. Coach Jimmy, man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You always raise the spirits, and we always get to share great tidbits, and hopefully everybody took 2 cents out of all the things, and we continue to grow and continue to get better. And I'm glad you're back to doing live stuff, man. I know that's your jam, man. That's where you're.
Hey, you too, man. Congratulations. You have to let me know how it goes, and just let me know when you want me on next time. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Absolutely. TextCoachJimmy.com is the website, so make sure that you go and get those videos shared in the morning. Jimmy, take care of yourself. We'll have you back on soon, my friend.
All right, take care.
Awesome. Coach Jimmy Nelson right there on the program. Always good stuff. Always has great tidbits and nuggets to share, to add into your day, to help you on the growth path, man. That's where we're all going. The trajectory is upward. Also, thank you to Dr. Jay LaGuardia for being on the program. Always great to have him on. We talked about stacking successes. We talk about obstacles and overcoming and a whole bunch of great stuff. If you missed any portion of the show, of course, it's available on YouTube, youtube.com/Cooperville Live. It is also available on our Twitch channel, the Cooperville Live Twitch channel. Joe, peace out, brother. Thank you for watching. And it lives on our Facebook page as well. So that's the Cooperville Live Facebook page. It's all the same. It's all Cooperville Live stuff. So we'll check you out tomorrow on the show. Tomorrow, the last live show that's going to be right at 5 o'clock as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday. Of course, going to be out at Country Fest. So look for updates on Twitch exclusively. That starts on Wednesday, but we're back on the show to kind of get geared up for that coming up tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central. Until then, hit the links. We're going to get out of here. Enjoy your Monday evening. Do all of the things. And hit up textcoachjimmy.com. Get those videos sent your way every morning. Y'all have a great one. We out here.